He holds a girl in his arms, reflecting on his cynical view of the world. He has no friends, his parents' divorce soured him on relationships, and he always considered love someone else's problem. Due to his past, he believed marriage was an impossible, far-off concept for him, something he never seriously considered until a voice calls out his name, Renjo-kun. The voice belongs to a beautiful Nordic girl, who looks at him earnestly and makes a stunning confession, asking him directly to marry her. Renjo addresses the girl, Ryuti-san, reminding her that he has told her many times before that at 16, he cannot legally marry in Japan, so his answer is already decided. Ryuti clarifies that she understands he can't marry yet, which is why she wants him to be her fiancé in name only, asking if that would be acceptable to him while he considers that he would have been happy if this were a confession of love. Renjo wonders how the situation escalated to this point, flashing back to the events of a few days prior that set everything in motion. The flashback begins with Renjo in a bookstore, noting that while it has a good selection, the shelves are far too high for some patrons. It was a normal day on his way home from school when he stopped by his usual bookstore, where he noticed a customer was struggling. He wondered why the person stood out so much before recognizing her as his classmate, Eino Ryuti. He identifies her as a foreigner from Finland who is known for being solitary and not interacting with anyone in their class. Renjo considers that she must be on her way home from school as well, but he hesitates to get involved, assuming she would just reject his help as she strains to reach for a book on a high shelf. He is startled when their eyes suddenly meet, a moment of unexpected connection in the quiet bookstore. The sudden eye contact makes Ryuti lose her balance on the step stool, and she lets out a cry as she begins to fall backward. With a loud crash, a nearby bookshelf topples over, and Renjo looks on in shock at the sudden chaos. A muffled sound is heard, but the immediate danger seems to have passed without serious injury. Renjo holds Ryuti, having caught her just in time, and asks if she is okay, and she recognizes him as her classmate, Renjo. He asks if she also knows his first name, though he thinks to himself that there's no way she would. To his complete surprise, Ryuti correctly identifies his first name as Toru, leaving him momentarily speechless. Toru, flustered that it's been so long since anyone used his given name, is snapped back to reality when Ryuti tells him to let her go, explaining that he was leaning on her. After she moves away, he observes that instead of thanking him for his help, she seems to be on guard, though he tells himself he didn't help her expecting thanks anyway. Ryuti suddenly speaks in clear Japanese, asking Renjo if he helped her because she was about to fall, and he confirms it. He's struck by the uncharacteristic expression on her face, realizing that the girl who is always expressionless in class can make such faces too. Flustered, Ryuti insists that he shouldn't get the wrong idea and that it wasn't like she needed his help at all. Renjo quietly agrees, thinking he might have annoyed her by interfering, though he's not entirely sure. His instincts warn him that getting more involved with her might lead to trouble. And yet, despite his reservations, he offers to get the book for her to prevent another accident, reasoning it would be faster than calling a clerk, and she tells him the book's title is The Long Goodbye. He asks if the author is Chandler, confirming his familiarity with the novel. Ryuti, surprised, asks if he's read it before, and he confirms that he has, explaining that he reads a lot of books. She seems impressed, and he realizes she's different from what he had imagined. He retrieves the book and hands it to Ryuti, but when she acts reluctant to take it, he playfully asks if he should put it back. She calls him mean for teasing her, but he turns it back on her, saying that he thinks she is the one being mean. With great effort and a deep blush, Ryuti quietly admits that she was glad he helped her. She finally manages a quiet, thank you, and Renjo wonders if she's simply not used to expressing gratitude. She confesses that pretending to be tough is a bad habit of hers, but he reassures her that it's not necessarily a bad thing if it's needed for self-protection. He reflects on her solitary presence in class, concluding that he doesn't intend to pry, but getting close to someone special can make one realize how ordinary they are. Ryuti repeats his words about needing something to protect herself, and he looks at her, confused, while thinking there must be a reason for her behavior. She looks at him and sincerely tells him that he is a kind person, which takes him by surprise. He dismisses her compliment, saying he's not really kind and that anyone would have done what he did, but she insists that even so, if it's him, it's different. He is momentarily captivated by her intense, gemstone-like eyes as she speaks, leaving him momentarily flustered. Realizing he spent too much time there, Renjo announces that he's leaving, glad he could help. As he turns to go, Ryuti desperately tries to call out to him, telling him to wait. Now outside the Shiya bookstore, Renjo realizes with a sigh that in the midst of everything, he forgot to buy the book he originally came for. He resigns himself to returning to his peaceful, boring daily life, convinced he is not the type to get involved with the blonde, blue-eyed, solitary goddess. He reflects that at the time, he could never have imagined that from that day forward, he would be with her every single day. The narrative shifts to the next day, where Renjo is slumped over his desk in the classroom, sleepy from staying up too late watching anime and reading mystery novels. As he rests his head on his desk, trying to fight off his drowsiness, Ryuji watches him from her own seat. The sound of chatter pulls his attention, and he wonders what's going on as everyone seems to be looking at something behind him. He turns to see Ryuji standing there, who addresses him by name and says she wants to talk to him during lunch today. She then nervously asks if he would like to eat lunch with her. The classroom immediately fills with the shocked chatter of their classmates, who can't believe the solitary Eino Ryuji is inviting an unremarkable boy like Renjo to eat. Overwhelmed by the attention and the troubling situation, Ryuji begins to shiver, anxiously wondering if his answer will be no. Renjo feels the immense pressure of the situation, realizing that a wrong choice could turn into a huge problem, while his classmates wonder if Ryuji and Renjo are close. He tries to downplay their connection to the inquisitive class, explaining that he just met Ryuji at the bookstore and helped her get a book, but she interjects that it wasn't just that. She elaborates, telling everyone that he also caught her when she almost fell off a step stool, which causes another wave of murmurs as a classmate exclaims that Renjo caught her. Ryuji explains she wants to thank him properly and offers to treat him to the most expensive lunch in the cafeteria, but Renjo insists that it's unnecessary as he didn't do anything special. He contemplates what he should do, knowing that refusing a special, beautiful girl like her is the wise choice to avoid complications, but he sees her legs trembling with nervousness. He reasons that the girl known as the solitary goddess must have mustered all her courage to invite him, realizing she might actually be a timid and shy person who is bad at socializing. He knows he lacks confidence and wants to avoid trouble, but he also feels that if he rejects her now, he will end up hating himself for it. He decides to accept, and she asks for confirmation that he'll have lunch with her. He deflects her offer of a cafeteria treat but suggests she could buy him a coffee from the vending machine after lunch instead. He says that would be a relief, and she agrees, though she quickly adds with a blush that it's not like she really wanted to have lunch with him, just that this is a thank you. He recognizes her behavior as that of a Tsundere and wonders why Ryuji is suddenly so interested in him, questioning if it's just because of yesterday or if there's another reason. She asks if he is happy, clarifying that most guys would be in this situation, and he confirms that yes, he is. Seeing his answer makes her happy in turn, and looking back, he realizes this moment was a turning point. If he had rejected her then, he never would have become her fiancé. Back in the present of that day, he and Ryuji are walking through the school hallway during lunchtime. He asks Ryuji whether she would prefer to buy lunch from the convenience store or the cafeteria. She replies that she is okay with whatever he likes, and he finds her every gesture to be incredibly cute as they decide to go to the cafeteria. Because Ryuji stands out so much, Renjo tries to find a place with as few people as possible, realizing he was walking too fast and leaving her behind. She tells him that he doesn't need to be so considerate and that she would have been fine, but he insists that he doesn't want her to force herself because it bothers him. He walks ahead, and she watches his back, quietly pondering his words. He turns back to her and asks if she is, surprisingly, an introvert, a question that causes her to blush intensely. Ryuji becomes extremely flustered, denying she's an introvert and insisting she's just shy and can't be honest, accusing him of setting a trap for her with his question. He observes her reaction and concludes that there's no mistaking it. Despite acting tough and cold, she is a very timid and shy girl. He then reflects that he might have been too blunt, admitting to himself that while he wants to keep his distance, he doesn't want to hurt her, making him more of a coward than she is. Renjo speaks aloud, telling Ryuji that he is likely more shy, timid, and introverted than she is, trying to find common ground. They look at each other, and he quietly suggests that they are very similar. He tries to explain that they aren't similar because he isn't special like her, revealing that their classmates call her the goddess Freya, which surprises her. His heart pounds as she insists she is not a goddess but just a normal person, and at the cafeteria ticket machine he asks what she is having. She decides to have the same meal as him but quickly adds that it's not because she wants to eat the same thing as him, a denial he nervously accepts. Renjo is surprised at how relaxed he is. He expected to be a nervous wreck having lunch with the most beautiful girl in their grade, but finds he can act naturally, especially since they can talk about books. Ryuji notices him staring and asks if there is something on his face, And he quickly denies it, flustered because he can't admit he was captivated by her. Her laughing reminds him of a childhood friend who also used to laugh like that, but an incident in their past tore them apart. He worries that if he continues to get involved with Ryuti, he might end up hurting her as well, but he finds her dazzling presence hard to resist. His thoughts are interrupted as a cafeteria worker places a tray with the A-set meal in front of him. He tells Ryuti he's going to get some water, but as he stands, she calls out his name, stopping him. He turns and is shocked to see another girl, Tomoka, who greets him by name. Tomoka observes that it is rare for him to be alone with a girl. Renjo is horrified, realizing he's just run into the person from his past he least wanted to meet, a girl he hurt who now hates him, while she asks why Kono-san is alone. Tomoka ignores his question and turns her attention to Ryuti, bluntly asking if she is Renjo-kun's girlfriend. Ryuti boldly meets her gaze and counters with a question of her own, asking what Tomoka would do if that were the case. Renjo tries to intervene, explaining to Ryuti that Tomoka is just a childhood friend, but Tomoka speaks over him, telling Ryuti she doesn't recommend dating someone as worthless as him. Ryuti defends Renjo, saying it doesn't concern Tomoka, who retorts that it does. Renjo panics, realizing this is bad and that Tomoka is about to reveal the secret he wanted to keep hidden from school. Tomoka looks at Renjo and Ryuti with a slight smile and declares that she is Renjo-kun's ex-fiancée. Ryuti is stunned by the revelation, whispering ex-fiancée in disbelief, while Renjo wonders how no one else around them seems to have noticed this bombshell. Renjo tells Kono-san that she broke her promise to keep their past a secret, but she dismisses his concern, admitting that while they were engaged due to family circumstances, it's not a memory he should want to dwell on. Tomoka tells Ryuti that because of this past, she knows Renjo quite well, unlike Ryuti. She continues her warning, stating that it's better not to get involved with Renjo because he is a bad person, the type who will abandon his fiancée and run away. Renjo stands silently, pained and unable to refute her words. Ryuti shakes her head, telling Tomoka that while she doesn't know what happened between her and Renjo, she simply cannot think of him as a bad person. Tomoka challenges her, asking why she would think that when she can't trust the words of someone who has known him for so long. Ryuti looks Tomoka directly in the eyes and explains it's because she isn't looking at the Renjo of the past. The Renjo standing in front of her right now is a kind person. Renjo is visibly moved and struck silent by Ryuti's unwavering defense of him. Tomoka warns Ryuti not to blame her if she comes to regret her decision, but Ryuti confidently states that she will not regret it. Annoyed, Tomoka mutters that Ryuti is different from her. Tomoka acknowledges that while she was Renjo's childhood friend and fiancé, Ryuti is different. Ryuti concedes that they are currently just classmates and that she can't become his childhood friend. But she looks from Tomoka to Renjo and declares that she can become his fiancé. Renjo looks on, shocked and blushing at her bold statement. The weight of her words hangs in the air as she focuses on being with Renjo-kun. The scene flashes back to her initial proposal, her sapphire-like eyes staring at him as she says she wants him to be her fiancé. Renjo's mind drifts to old memories, recalling a time when he had a childhood friend who was also his fiancé. They were cousins, and after his parents divorced, he was taken in by her family and they began living together, which led their parents to arrange an engagement. Her family runs one of Japan's largest corporate groups, and he remembers genuinely liking his childhood friend, Tomoka, and wanting to become someone worthy of her. But their future was shattered when a major incident destroyed their relationship, resulting in him being kicked out of the family and his engagement to Tomoka falling through. His thoughts return to the present, triggered by Ryuti's words that she can't become his childhood friend. He looks at Ryuti, the weight of his past memories contrasting with the current moment. He recalls her powerful declaration, "I can become his fiancé, right?" which hangs in the air between them. The scene then cuts back to the beginning of her proposal, her eyes fixed on him as she says she wants him to be her fiancé. Later, they sit at an outdoor table at a coffee shop where Ryuti orders 2 iced cocos topped with soft-serve ice cream. He questions her ordering one for him too, but she asks if he doesn't want the same one, and he agrees that it's fine. She becomes flustered, realizing the situation feels like a date, and quickly insists that wasn't her intention, but he apologizes for bringing her to a place like this. While she admits she's happy he invited her, he reminds himself that he is not there for a date, but to understand the true purpose behind her words. He thinks about how Tomoka had left earlier, seeming uncharacteristically flustered after their confrontation. Getting straight to the point, Renjo asks Ryuti directly why she said she wanted to become his fiancé and whether it was merely a joke. He considers that if it was just a lie to bother Tomoka, that would be fine, but he questions whether the timid Ryuti would really go that far. Ryuti shakes her head, confirming that her proposal was for real and that she also invited him to lunch for that same reason. She explains that Kono-san was speaking badly about him, so she impulsively said she would become his fiancée but admits she didn't explain herself well. He presses further, asking if there's a reason she would be in trouble without a fiancé, even one in name only, like being forced into a marriage. To his complete surprise, she blinks and asks how he knew, as he internally reasons that there could be no other explanation for such a sudden proposal. He deduces she must have a reason for needing a fiancé that is unrelated to his past engagement with Tomoka, and she begins by confirming he knows she was born in Finland. She explains that her mother works for a Japanese subsidiary of a Finnish company, and he recalls hearing that Ryuti is the daughter of a Finnish conglomerate, but the company has been in financial trouble for a long time. The condition for the financial aid they received is that she must be engaged to a relative of the company's president, and Renjo realizes she wants him as a fiancé so she can reject that proposal. She pleads with him, promising it will only be for a limited time and won't cause him any trouble, explaining that if she already has a fiancé, the others will be convinced to back down. Renjo pulls out his phone to look up some information, asking for the name of the company that is funding her mother's. She tells him the name, and he is stunned to see it is the Kono Group, Tomoka's family company. He realizes this means the person she's being forced to marry must be a relative of the Kono family, and he tells her to wait while he calls someone from the main family to confirm. The person he calls is Tokita Fuyuka, the secretary of the Kono family who also serves as his guardian and liaison, and she answers the phone cheerfully. Fuyuka teases him for the late notice, guessing his call must be about that thing. She chides him for playing dumb, asking if he hasn't already heard about it from his classmate, Eino Ryuti, which shocks him. She cheerfully remarks how lucky he is to have a beautiful, blonde, blue-eyed girl for a fiancé, and he realizes what this means. Fuyuka confirms his suspicion. The Kono main family wants to make Toru the fiancé for Eino Ryuti, which is news to him. He asks if their wishes are being completely ignored, and she replies that the world is unfair and this is the family head's intention. He protests, saying that he thought the family expected nothing from him after kicking him out, and asks if she doesn't feel bad for Ryuti in this situation. Fuyuka tells him it seems the Kono family now wants to use him, and that ultimately, the decision is up to him. She playfully suggests there would be no problem if he simply becomes the ideal fiancé and makes Ryuti fall in love with him, dismissing his protests that she's being unreasonable. He asks for some time to think, and she tells him to take his time before hanging up, leaving him to quietly tell himself not to be teased. He ends the call, grappling with the problem of how to explain this massive complication to Ryuti, only to see that she's being approached by two other male students. The students are hitting on her, but she tells them she is already dating someone and, in a moment of panic, calls out Renjo's first name, Toru-kun. She rushes to his side and hugs him, and he plays along for the other students, stating that she's his girlfriend until they leave. Holding her close, she tells him that the confrontation was scary, and she thanks Toru for saving her while he apologizes for leaving her alone. Still in boyfriend mode, he asks if this sort of thing happens to her often, and she quietly wishes she had someone to protect her. He lets out a sigh, the weight of his own situation and now her predicament making him feel dizzy as he thinks about her future fiancé. He looks at her seriously and reveals the truth he learned from the phone call, telling her that the fiancé chosen for her was him. Ryuti looks up at him, completely surprised and unable to process his words at first. After he explains the unbelievable situation involving his mother's side and the Kono group, she agrees that only a family like that would do something so outdated. She admits that while the situation is surprising, what truly surprises her is finding out that Renjo-kun was her designated fiancé all along. She reasons that if he becomes her fiancé, then everything will be fine, concluding that this might be fate, though she gets flustered and denies wanting to marry him. Renjo asks if she is truly okay with being forced to marry someone she doesn't even like, and she hesitates to answer. She shyly admits that if her fiancé is Renjo-kun, she might actually want to get married, which leaves him blushing and speechless. He asks if she is really okay with him, admitting he still can't fully understand her, and she tries to explain that he is kind, cool, her age, and understands her. She tells him that it's okay if he doesn't understand her yet, as long as he tries to understand her from now on. Looking at him with earnest, tear-filled eyes, she repeats her request one more time, "I want you to marry me." Renjo understands that as much as he dislikes the idea of her marrying someone she doesn't like, this is currently the best choice for her. He realizes that both the Kono family and her mother want this arrangement to happen, which means the only thing left to decide is his own will. He gazes out the window, his heart troubled as he contemplates the monumental question. What does he truly want? A new chapter begins, centered on the new, beautiful classmate who has entered Renjo's life. He reflects on the recent whirlwind of events. His classmate, Ryuji-san, suddenly proposed to him at school, and then repeated the proposal at a coffee shop on the way home. Back at the coffee shop, he tells her she should think about these things more seriously, but she insists she is. She then asks with a worried expression if his hesitation is a no. Renjo tells her he doesn't think she has considered it enough, believing she must have spoken on impulse, but when he asks if she is sure, she firmly nods in confirmation. To test her resolve, he asks a blunt question. Does she think she can make babies with him, a statement she calls sexual harassment even as he insists it's the truth of what marriage entails. He explains that if they are going to get married, that is something that will eventually happen and that is why she needs to think about it, but she looks at him seriously and says she can do it. She leans forward, flustered but determined, and says that of course they can make babies after getting married and that if Renjo-kun wants to do that, it's fine with her. He realizes his attempt to make her reconsider has completely backfired, instead causing her to say something so unexpectedly bold, and she stares at him, asking if that is something he wants to do. Her direct stare makes him glance away, and she suddenly becomes self-conscious, asking with surprise if he just looked at her chest. He denies it, but she calls him a liar, concluding that Renjo-kun is a boy after all. He internally admits that as a boy, he would of course be interested in a beautiful girl like Ryuji, but he can't say that to her, and she threatens not to forgive him if he doesn't explain himself. He tries to regain control of the conversation, telling her he never agreed to get engaged and that he needs a little more time to think about it. She reaches out and gently touches his face, stopping his words. She looks at him with a soft smile and tells him that she wants him to remember one thing. She wants to get married to him. The next day, students are arriving at school for the start of the day. Renjo is still in a daze, unable to get the previous day's intense conversation out of his head. He is suddenly jolted back to reality when someone slaps him on the back and wishes him a good morning. It's his classmate, Sarai-san, who notes he doesn't look well. He observes that she seems to be doing fine, and she replies with a thumbs up that she's totally motivated to beat Kono. He identifies the girl as his classmate Sarai Asuka, a bright and energetic person he has known since middle school. Despite her cheerful appearance, she is a top student, second in their grade only to Tomoka, and after losing to her in the student president election, Asuka unilaterally decided they were rivals. He recalls that Asuka originally approached him, as Tomoka's childhood friend, for information, but since he was already estranged from her, he was of little use. Asuka asks for a weakness she could use to defeat Kono, like a fear of snakes, but he says he has never heard of anything like that and asks if she would really be satisfied winning that way. She winks and tells him that's why she likes him, because he gets it, and he wishes she wouldn't tease him. He points out that Kono-san hasn't actually done anything wrong, but Asuka declares Tomoka the villain and herself an ally of justice who will destroy her rival in the upcoming exams. He remarks that she sounds like the villain in this scenario, and she gets in his face, demanding to know whose side he is on between her and Tomoka. He tells her that he is cheering for her, which makes her blush and thank him sincerely. As she runs off, she yells that she will now have to beat Tomoka for his sake too, leaving him to ponder her words as another classmate greets him from behind. He turns to find Ryuji, who wishes him a good morning. He sees she's on daily duty and offers to help, but she says she's okay. As he turns to leave, she leans in very close and whispers directly into his ear, asking once more, "Will you marry me?" He jumps back in surprise, completely flustered and looking around frantically, thinking that while no one likely heard, it would be a huge problem if they did. He thinks about her desperate situation, knowing that she will be forced to marry a stranger if she doesn't get engaged to him, but he still questions if he can truly be of help. After being kicked out of his family, he was never needed by anyone, but now he is needed by her. He goes to the library and picks up a book on Finland, hoping to learn more about Ryuji-san. He flips through the book, telling himself he is just a little curious about her home country. He reads about Finland's population and that many people are blonde with blue eyes, then learns that women there are apparently very tall, making him realize that in contrast, Ryuji-san is quite tiny, and that in the end, all he's thinking about is her. A voice from above asks him what he is reading, and he looks up to see Ryuji standing over his table. He quickly hides the book, saying it's personal privacy, which makes her suspect it's a dirty book. She then leans in and whispers that if he married her, he wouldn't need a dirty book anymore. He is stunned into silence, and she insists she didn't mean it in a weird way, but he asks what other way she could have possibly meant it. She loudly defends herself, reminding him that yesterday, he was the one who brought up the topic of making babies with her. The other students in the library turn to stare as he frantically denies ever saying that, a blush of deep embarrassment on his face. She reminds him that he did, and he tries to clarify he was speaking hypothetically about what happens if they were to get married, but she doubles down, saying she's totally okay with that kind of stuff. He realizes she might have meant it in a weird way after all, and she seems to agree, admitting, yeah, maybe. She looks at him intently and asks again, so, will you get engaged with me, making him wonder how many times she has used that word today alone. Someone takes a deliberate step toward their table, interrupting the moment. It's Sakurai Asuka, and she looks upset. She says that someone told her a boy from their class was sexually harassing Ryuji by saying he wanted to make babies with her. Renjo is trapped, panicking as he tries to think of a way to explain the massive misunderstanding. Asuka says that she knows there must be a reason if it's him, but she's noticed that he and Ryuji have been getting along recently. Ryuji looks on with a worried expression as Asuka asks Renjo to explain the reason for his behavior. Asuka points at them, demanding to know what the hell is going on between him and Ryuji-san, leaving Renjo to wonder what he will do about this secret engagement.